Okay, now we'll transition from the 100 degrees in Dubai to the 50s and 60s of Alaska. So, we again volunteered at Echo Ranch Bible Camp in Juneau, Alaska. This summer, as the in-town support staff, our roles included taking care of the mail. Not going? Here. Let's see if we can get it to go. Okay. I don't know if I can run both of these at one time and read. We'll see. What's that? Do you have a script up there? There's a lot of asterisks in there. All right. Some of these move pretty fast. So I'll start. As the in-town support staff, our roles included taking care of the mail, housekeeping, hospitality, transportation, taking care of vehicles, getting supplies, and grocery shopping. We bought camp groceries on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. Another couple helped us on Tuesdays and Fridays. On Thursdays, we bought the groceries for Haynes with Daniel's help since he had Thursdays off. The grocery truck was driven around the cove to the camp if it was low tide. If the tide was high, the landing craft was used. Weekends were busy with arrivals and departures of campers, work teams, and camp staff. The highlight for us this past summer was having Pastor Ken and Stella and Jeff and Angie come to Juneau for a week. We took them to the Mendenhall Glacier and walked to the Nugget Falls. We went on a whale watch.
There it comes, tail, get him! He's coming, there he is! Yeah! Woo!
We had a great time, a lot of fun. We enjoyed eating out and also made breakfast one morning at the lake house where they stayed in town. Pastor Ken spoke at the first camp of the season, Colt number 1 for ages 7 to 9. You'll hear more from Pastor Ken's and Jeff's a little later.
Registration began early at Echo Cove with parents lining up before 7:30 a.m. to drop off their children. We often joined this line to check in the out-of-town campers who had arrived late Sunday night or early Monday morning. The campers were given a colored wristband which corresponded with their cabin.
Can we change that to the next one?
Medication was given to the nurse. Their luggage was tagged with their cabin name. Then it was loaded into the wagon.
Next one.
Turn it over. Or the luggage truck to be taken into camp and delivered to their cabin. Campers then met their counselors by their colored flag. Once all of the campers had arrived at Echo Cove, they hiked the 1.5 to 2 miles into camp. Okay, next one. Campers stayed in cabins, 8 to 10 campers with 2 counselors. Okay, next. Campers enjoyed 3 meals a day. The first stop was the hand washing station. Then they lined up until it was time to enter the dining hall.
You can go back one and play that video, please. It's fine. It's not going to play.
Yeah, we can go on. It's all right.
That's
Okay.
all right.
We often asked campers what the best things about camp had been. Oh.
Just go ahead.
Yeah, just go on. You can go to the next one. And the food was mentioned frequently. Okay, next. Campers attended chapel twice a day. Next. To hear the gospel message. Next. In the afternoons, campers enjoyed various free time activities depending on their ages. Next. The game room, crafts, the gym. Next. Horse riding, miniature golf, archery, laser tag, goggle ball, the zip line, and the trading post.
And one more.
Okay, next. One of our primary duties was meeting and transporting out-of-town campers. The staff member in charge of arranging camper travel would email a list to us of arrivals and departures for each week's camp. Sometimes the campers we met would be taken straight out to the end of the road or camp. Other times, we had to keep the first group of campers to wait for the next arrivals, and then we would take the whole group out the road. Several times we had large groups of teens, so we provided sack lunches for them. One group spent several hours in town with us, so we had to find activities to occupy the time until we could take them out to camp.
Will this one play? That's all right, just go on. That's fine.
Okay.
That's fine.
Another time, we passed the time playing games with several campers in the dorm. Other times, we would take the campers to McDonald's, either upon their arrival or when they were departing for home. Most of the out-of-town campers did not have a McDonald's in their hometown, so eating there was a treat. The play area also provided entertainment.
Next picture, please. Oh, that's right, you're good.
The back one.
When campers did not go straight out to camp, we had time to visit with them. There were campers that we had picked up several previous summers, so it was fun to connect with them again. This boy from Haynes came to camp twice this summer. We had several good conversations with him. When we picked him up at the end of the second week of camp, the first thing he said, before even getting into the vehicle, was, "I became a Christian this week." Yeah, it was exciting. Later in the summer, we heard that boy attended a function in Haynes and had been telling everyone there about Jesus. You can pray for this boy that he will grow in his knowledge of God. He said his parents are not Christians. His dad thinks whoever is good enough will go to heaven. But his grandma is a Christian, and he told us she would be excited.
Weekends were our busiest times. Some campers departed Friday afternoons or evenings. Saturdays often began with departing campers needing to be at the airport by 5:30 a.m. If these were unaccompanied minors, one of us had to go through security with the campers and sit with them until the plane took off. The next group of campers had to be at the airport at 8:30 a.m., and the next group needed to be there by 11:30 a.m. Sometimes there was an even later camper departure in the afternoon. Camp counselors would stay with the campers in the town dorm until we picked up the last group of departing campers. There were many work teams this summer. At the Juneau camp, a deck was added to a staff apartment house. A picnic shelter was built near the dining hall. Some teams worked on the projects at Echo Ranch Haynes. The town of Haynes is located 60 miles north of Juneau, a 30-minute flight on seaplanes or a 4.5-hour ferry ride. There were several projects in Haynes to improve this camp to become a spiritual retreat center. Day camps are currently held there in the summer. The work teams helped with the new kitchen and began work on a new bathhouse. These teams often arrived in Juneau late in the evening and had to overnight in the town dorm before leaving on the ferry early the next morning. When they were finished with their time in Haynes, they arrived on the ferry late in the evening, stayed overnight in the town dorm, and left on an early morning flight.
The first week of July was Sabbath week, when there were no camps scheduled. It was a week of relaxation and fun for the camp staff. We were able to go to Echo Ranch Haynes for a few days during this week. We enjoyed the 4.5-hour ferry ride to and from Haynes. While in Haynes, we were able to visit several friends, and the camp boat arrived in Haynes with groceries. And it's a video, but I don't know if it will play. We can see. Nope, that's all right. It was interesting for us to see how the entire circle of the Haynes grocery process. We would buy the groceries in Juneau and then get them on the camp boat to Haynes, and they'd have to unload them at Haynes and get them on the pickup and into the place there. We are very grateful for the financial support from the Missions Committee. We also appreciate all of the prayers for us this summer. Thank you so much. I'm a little worried about this next part, so who knows what they're going to say? Especially this one.
Stand up here with us. So go ahead and start.
It was a pretty quiet trip the whole way up there with Pastor and Stella. But it was great. It was a great time to see Mike and Jamie. I never heard anybody call him Mr. Rimple except me. But that was hard to get used to, but it was great to spend time with Mike and Jamie. That was the highlight of my whole time over there.
And I do what I get to do and I enjoy the most, and that is goof off and tell people the gospel. While we wait for the video, I have my Jesus cup, got a sin cup, and I got a me cup. And as I tell the story of, am I good enough? We realize that when we start out, not bad. I mean, I look pretty good. Sin has come into the world. And so, of course, with that, sin has affected my life. And I became a sinner. The Bible says that none of us is good enough. God took Jesus, and he took the sins of the world, put it on Jesus. And then the Bible says that Jesus took and put the righteousness of Christ in my life. And thus I can be as righteous as Christ himself is righteous. And I just love just think about me, 7 to 9 year olds. I can just become just like them. Oh, that's so much fun at camp. Who's next? Yep.
Well, this is where we stayed with Mike and Jamie, and first off, they took us to see the glaciers, which I've never seen before, so that was just amazing. And next. And as you notice, I brought one pair of shorts, never put them on once. It was cold. We found the mama bears. This was also on a tour. Next. I don't remember this part, but there was a big window in the church we were at.
It was hard to focus at church. Not the wrong.
Want me to operate it? That button. Okay. You want to talk about this?
You're doing well.
And then this is where we went on the whale watching tour, and this is where Pastor came alive. Everybody on the boat knew that guy. It was great. It was great.
There were people trying to get pictures, and they said, we never saw a picture one. I said, oh, that's over here. I said, you see that over there? That's a whale. I said, how do you see that? I said, it's a whale right there. And he would do this, and then I would say, tail, because you could tell he was going to dive a little higher and then deeper, and then the tail would come shooting straight up like that. And I think everybody there got all their pictures.
But there were only 3 adventurous ones. We stood outside. Ken and I and Jamie all stood outside watching the whales. In the rain, and these guys all stayed inside. So they didn't get to see it near as well as we did.
We have videos.
They heard it.
And this was a house that was donated to the ranch that we got to stay in. That was a lake house, which was totally amazing. That's your view every morning. This was like 2 o'clock in the morning. Sun never set, maybe for 2 hours. That was just totally awesome. But the view was great. And then this is a church we got to go with, Mike and Jamie, and it was kind of funny because there was a water plane landing behind there through that window, which I noticed. I don't know if anybody else noticed, but it was awesome. It was just a great time. And this right here, the whole time we were there, Mike was just wanting to make sure we got this exhaust fan fixed. We drove all over town, every department store, nobody had the right fan. And we go out, Angie and me were out at the camp, and I'm working out there, and I find the fan on the shelf out at the camp. So brought it back, fixed it, so got them hooked up. Oh, this is with Daniel and me. We had a great tour guide. Daniel, he took us out to the end of the road, which is out to the camp, which is probably 20 miles from town. And I was like, Daniel, just show me around. Show me the cool parts of where you go. And he just pulls off the road. When we're throwing rocks in the water, skipping rocks, that was just a blast. Good time. Daniel, I'm pretty sure I won every time, but he was giving her a good try. And we got to have some fine dining with Mike. He said he had this place that everybody raves about. It's called Costco. And the hot dogs, I'm not a hot dog guy, but that was amazing.
And of course, it was big.
Yeah. And this is Mike's downfall right here. I mean, if you need him to do anything, you get him a bag of M&Ms, you're golden. This is how he keeps going from 2 o'clock in the morning to midnight. He just peanut M&Ms. And this is kind of substantial because the first time we went up grocery shopping, we bought like 12 gallons of milk, and they were almost $5 a piece. And then the same day, like 5 hours later, we're back at the grocery store, and I'm like, hey, what about these? And, they expire in 2 days. He's like, those things will be gone in probably 4 hours by the time we get out there. So we bought like 18 gallons of milk. It was crazy. We bought everything on sale. And here's Daniel showing it. I mean, we had this thing packed to the $7,000 worth of groceries in this thing. So the cheap milk was a big deal to all of us. And then on our last few days, we've been looking for bear the whole time. And as we're coming out, we see probably 2 or 3 different bears right by the side of the highway. So that blacktop's right there. So we're close.
Can you click? This is that same, what was it called? Landing craft that they put the trucks on or just transported people real quick. But when we got there, when Mike and Jamie decided, or when we were going to camp, then Mike and Jamie, the tide was low, so we decided to drive around the ocean, which I had never done before, so that was really cool. And Mike is actually a really good driver. We didn't know that about Mike, but it was really fun to see Mike. You had to put it in 4x4, and we had to go over rocks, and it was just really neat. And I think this is still the grocery truck going on, right? Oh, here's the video. Yeah, $7,000 worth of groceries, and that it was kind of sideways. We were wondering if it was going to make it there. Yes, that's true. Yeah. All right, so here we are in the cab on our way to camp. And that's the Echo Ranch right at the beginning. And it's, what is it, a 2-mile drive around? 2-mile drive around. And then once we got there, then Mike and Jamie put us in a golf cart, and all 6 of us went touring. They showed us all around the whole place, which was really neat. It's a beautiful camp. This was our accommodations for the week. It was not nearly as glamorous as yours was, but it was really good. It was warm. The first night we were really cold. I don't know, but I think Jeff and Angie were hot, and we were cold. So and that was our room. And then our fireplace. And Ken did get it to stay lit, so that was good. Next. And this was our view out of our window. So in the background there was mountains. It was kind of a hazy day, but there's mountains, and the horses were just, they free roam around the whole camp, so that was really cool. They were walking around us, and it's really cool, right outside our door. And this is Jeff and Angie's room, and Jeff's doing the same thing, trying to get the fire lit. Very necessary, yeah, because I was cold a lot of the days, so, and coming from Canada, you wouldn't think that would be the thing, but. Nope.
This was the view out of our window.
Was it really?
I don't know how we got. Well, we met a guy up there. Yeah, we met a guy up there, and they told him that they wanted him to build 6 like porch swings up there on the beach. So I'm thinking, go to Home Lumber or Home Depot or whatever and get whatever you need. Nope, you go out there, you find some wood. So for us, that was pretty amazing. Just if they would have sent Pastor and me up there, we'd have been lucky to make a toothpick. But that was just awesome. Yeah.
And my job description that while I was there is I did laundry for the camp staff, so for the counselors, and I think I did laundry, I did laundry every single morning, so I probably did between 5 to 10 loads of laundry every morning. And then I also worked in the kitchen, and we cooked and cooked and cooked. And I guess they had it really set up really nice where one lady did breakfast, another lady was in charge of lunch, and one was in charge of supper. But I stayed all day because I didn't know that I wasn't supposed to be there all day. And so, so after 2 days, I was just like, I all of a sudden realized there's shift change here. So, so then I got a little smarter. So it was really good. And we cooked, I think, like for 200 people, you think? It was pretty much 200 people every meal. So it was a lot of food that went through there. And that milk, $1.37 milk, was gone very quickly.
And I spoke, and I spoke, and I spoke.
Thank you for supporting us and helping us go. It was amazing, and I would recommend going and seeing what Mike and Jamie do. They work very hard, and some days they sleep very little because they have 4 hours and they got to go pick somebody else up, 4 hours and they got to go pick somebody else up. And you think it's hard to send your kids 4 hours to camp? These parents put their little kids, what, 3rd grade? 7 through 9-year-olds on an airplane without them, fly them over here, trust people they don't know to drive them all the way out to camp and then to get them back. So our little bus drive to camp is nothing compared to what these parents do. It's amazing to me.
Okay, we have some pictures that I'll show you first, and then we will have everybody come up and give a highlight of their week. But we had 17 people total for TLC that came. So here is us. We went to Table in the Wilderness. So if you don't know, that's near Laramie, Wyoming. And the group left on a Sunday through a Friday. So they traveled basically Sunday. And then on Monday, we went to Medicine Bow Peak, and we hiked that area. So that is our whole group with a few of the staff members in it. And we got to slide down on some snow up there, which was kind of crazy because it was middle of July, and we could have a snowball fight. This is the main lodge at Table in the Wilderness. So the top part we would usually play games and hang out in, and the bottom part of this is the cafeteria and where we ate all of our meals. So a typical day for us when we were there was we'd wake up, the kids would do their personal devotions, and then we would have breakfast, and then we would do a work project until usually like lunch, and then we'd go back out and work. And then in the evening, they would have activities, games that we would do, whether that was kind of running in the forest or whatever. They always had great entertainment for us in the evenings. So this was one evening we played hockey just on the top of the lodge area. And then also in the evenings, we got to hear devotionals either from the camp staff or from our own group. And this was actually very cool. If you notice, the guy that's actually talking is Zach Hawley. So he had been with TLC for 4 years, and then this summer he served at Table in the Wilderness. So it was really cool that we could go see him serving and what he did this summer, and he gave us a devotional one of our nights. And then for our work projects, we did a bunch of stuff, but one group went and they cut down some trees, and then they kind of sawed off all the bark of it, and they made these railings for a cabin and I think multiple cabins. And so it's kind of cool to see them actually use the stuff off of their property and are pretty beneficial in that. And then another group put tin on a cabin, and then we also put tin on a shed. And I'm not quite sure that this was OSHA certified or approved or whatever, but we were able to get this whole thing tinned, and this is also where those railings are going, like they are going in between those columns, so that way the porch would be finally complete. And because they get a lot of snow up there, so it was kind of snowing in their doors and they couldn't get in, so this is to help with that. So again, pretty safe. And then we had another group that kind of weatherproofed everything. All of the cabins are wood, so basically every year they have to be redone. So we had some very brave girls that were very ambitious as well. We had worked and we were going to be done for the time, and everybody else had kind of quit, but no, these girls were dedicated to finish their job, and they did this whole cabin, and they stayed out there late to make sure that it was done. So just more of, you can see how high they had to go on that. And then that is the final cabin that they had finished. And then this was another project that we did, is they have a high ropes course, and they needed a shed to house all their stuff in. So a previous group had kind of started this process, and so we came in to kind of help finish it. We didn't get it all the way done, but got a roof on it and ready for the next group to come in. And then, of course, we got sidetracked. We kind of have some squirrels in the group a little bit. So we went into fixing some lights. I think a lot of memories were made in this time because we were trying to figure out how to go from lights to light, and Leo thought he could swing basically from light to light. And another job that we had was kind of just maintaining the forest. So this whole campground is kind of surrounded by the forest, and so they're kind of just waiting for a period of when the forest starts on fire. So we had to do some cleanup around there, so that way if something does happen, hopefully their campground isn't in the mix of it, or just to help with so that a fire doesn't start too. And so they kind of took down the lower branches and then also kind of just cleaned up the debris that was on the floor. or the ground. A few other jobs that they did that we don't have pictures of is they have a bridge that kind of goes across a creek, and that there was a group that built that bridge, and then they also had a sunrise chapel that was at the top of the mountain that a group also put up rocks up there, but we didn't do the best at taking pictures this year, so my bad. And then on Wednesday we had a fun day, so all we did was play, and we canoed down the Platte River, and that was a lot of fun. Everybody got in a canoe with 2 people, and we hauled down the river. And then after we finished in the cold water, we went to the hot springs in Saratoga. And then just having fun as the group. And then this is part of they have a high ropes course and like rock climbing wall. So one of the afternoons, we got to spend a lot of time out here just climbing the rock wall, and then off the rock wall, they had a zip line, and then they had a Jacob's ladder that we got to do as a team, and then they also had some crate stacking. So this was new that we had never done with them before, but we tried to see how high we could go with the crates. Took a lot of balance. And then this was what they called the Jacob's ladder. And then, again, the evenings before game time, we would spend a lot of time with devotional time and just around the campfire talking. And that was always a highlight of just people sharing. And we got to hear a lot of the staff members' testimonies during this time. And then this is all 17 of us. So if you guys want to come up.
So I think this is the 5th year that we've been there. We usually try to give all the high schoolers one time out of their 4 years just to show them different ministries. Just like Zach got interested in going here, and so I'm going to ask each person just to share maybe the work project that you were a part of, and then maybe a highlight. And not all of them could make it, but we got some of them.
I got to work with some of the staining of the houses, or waterproofing it. I also got to help with breaking the bark off of those branches and helping make the railings out of it, and that was really cool. My highlight, I have really 2 highlights. One is always my highlight every year, and it's just, spend time with these kids. They're just awesome. These kids had great work ethic. Like Brooke said, there was one evening, or it was our last day, and we had a cutoff time because we needed to clean up, get ready for supper, and pack up and get ready to go the next day. And there's a group that they wanted to get that project done, so they went another hour and a half after that time just to get their project done. And just the attitude of the kids, they just bonded great. And I just think this age group is just the most awesome age group, and it's just really fun to hang out with them, and I thank them for letting me hang out with you. And the other highlight was just hearing the testimonies of the staff. It's just always encouraging to see how personal God is and how he meets everybody at their need. And everybody had a different story, a different background, but God was just as big in every one of their lives in bringing them to salvation or meeting whatever need it was that they had. And it's just always encouraging to hear somebody else's story of how God's been big in their life.
The work project that I helped with mainly was the tin on the shed and on the cabin. And again, my highlight was just spending a week with these kids. You get to know them a whole lot better and on a personal level in that week. And we truly have some incredible high school kids, and I think they beat me up every day too. So, but on the work projects, they would finish a project and be like, okay, what's next? I know we finished this one, but we're on to the next one. So I just really enjoyed being with these kids.
I was part of the shed, finishing up the shed and putting on tin on the roofs. And my highlight was crate stacking, because it was a pretty good adrenaline rush to be 17 crates high, and you could feel every single inch of that crate move. If there was a slightest of wind, you would fall over, and that was always fun just to fall down from the crates.
So the first day I moved rock up to the Sunrise Chapel, and then after that they built a bridge, so we made like a ramp up onto the bridge. So I did that, and then after that I went into the forest and cut down trees and then stripped the bark, a couple days doing that. My highlights were the evenings in general. We would eat supper together, then we would sing, because Caleb went as part of our group, and then have a little devotional, and then the campfire and games. So it was a time that we all got to hang out with each other, get to know each other, and then get to know the staff there as well.
I was also on the staining crew, and I had 2 little helpers that went around with me each morning and afternoon to deliver break to each of the other groups. So that was fun. What you couldn't see in the staining pictures is that we were very much on an incline, and the ground is very rocky. So every time we moved the ladder, we had girls, and Isaac was also on that crew. I don't think he's here tonight, but we had to prop other rocks or wood pieces, and so our ladder, we had to try to balance it each time we moved it, and that was a job. But one of my highlights, I'm going to kind of echo Debbie, is just to hear the testimonies from the staff members. I'm always a sucker for testimonies, but this is especially, it just really sticks out because you get to know these people throughout the whole week, and they're very genuine, and they're interested in your life. And so for me, to get to hear what God is doing in their life and how they got to this point in their life, is just a really big highlight. I feel like some of them do have different stories, but a lot of them come from maybe a home that wasn't Christ-centered, and for whatever reason, their family sent them to this Christian camping ministry, and when they got there, they felt like, this is home. The people here love God and they love me, and that's what drew them back to the camp. And so you can really feel it when you're there, that they focus on building relationships and serving others, all while still serving Christ. So if you ever get a chance to send your kid there, I would encourage it.
I helped with the staining crew, and one of my highlights was hiking the mountain and getting to play with snow.
I enjoy always going back to Table in the Wilderness, because the first time we went there, we showed up and we were like, where are we at? We didn't know what we were getting into. We just knew that we were going to go help this ministry, and just to see how it's grown. The first time we stayed there, we stayed in tents with some kerosene heaters or propane heaters during the night, and it was cold, and we had one bathhouse that we could kind of warm up in, and we ate breakfast in a tent and did everything in tents, and it was intense. But then just to see how it's grown, where they have that big, nice lodge and multiple cabins, and just how God has blessed that ministry. And if you didn't catch it from what Brooke was saying, this ministry is just a campground that you can send your kids, and they do a kids camp, or you can rent out the whole campground as a church retreat, or whatever you kind of want to do. They kind of try to fit in whatever your needs are to make the campground fit. And then during the winter, they have a bunch of snow that covers up a lot of it, but they still function and they still do camp ministry. So sometime I'd like to go up there in the winter and see how much is different, because they say everything's covered in snow, and it's hard to imagine that. One of my highlights was one afternoon or evening or something, we were talking to Zach Hawley as to what brought him to to Table, and just to see how God worked in his heart, because someone told him, hey, you should try that. And he's like, I don't know. And then he kept getting the pull to go there. And so that's kind of the reason why we take these trips every year, is to expose these kids to the ministry. And it was just neat to see that one of these trips came full circle for Zach, and that what we did sparked an interest in him. Not necessarily did he know he was going to go to Table, but then he had a background of what he experienced as a high schooler to be able to do that. And so I think it was a perfect fit for Zach. And the other highlight was just seeing how these kids took our kids in. Sometimes you can see that a 10-year-old and a 7-year-old might not fit with a bunch of high schoolers, and they want to do their own thing and be with their friends. But as you can see, there were some bonds made, and it was interesting. It was neat to see how they put aside some of their selfish desires to spend time with their own high schoolers and brought our kids in. So that was another highlight.
So I was part of the staining crew, and one of my highlights was probably the campfire. So we'd have s'mores and stuff, and then we would like play games in the dark, and it was fun because you could like not see anything, and yeah.
I helped with the staining crew and cleaning out the forest. My highlight was just playing in the dark and doing the rock wall. And you got to do the zip line at the end.
For the first few days, I worked with cleaning, which we cleaned 2 cabins, but we also got to put down 2 big military tents. So that was really interesting, and I didn't think I would be doing that, but I did. And then I also helped clean out some tree areas, for fires. And then I helped with staining, so holding my sister up with the ladder to make sure she didn't fall. That was really scary, but we did it. She's still here. And then my highlight of the week was probably the worship time that we had at the end of every day, because everyone in the mornings were all doing their different, working around different areas, and then we all just got to connect in the evenings.
So I was with the staining crew, and I was the person who was at the top of the ladder, holding myself with my legs and one hand while the bucket was leaned up against my chest, against the wall. And then with my other hand, I'd hold a paintbrush and try to reach as far as I could. So I was at the very, very top, reaching almost to the roof. I did that for the whole entire week. It took the whole time. And then I think a highlight for me would be for some of the mornings, Helen Polkerbeck and I, she used to live with me, but then she moved to Colorado. We would hike up to the chapel and watch the sunrise, and we sometimes would listen to music or look at the flowers because they had wildflowers going everywhere. But a funny story that happened during one of the game times, that happened at night. Helen lost her phone and her AirPods, and it was pitch black outside. But we found them just on the ground in the night. So it was kind of crazy.
So we got a ton of work done. If you saw the projects, plus there were 2 that we didn't get up there. And so the kids worked really hard, and that canoe ride down the river was awesome. It was probably a 2-hour trip. I got to spend 2 hours with Isaac for the whole time, and that was quite an interesting thing too. So I think one of my highlights was they're talking about these night games, and the staff usually was against the campers, and we would do all kinds of things at night. And one of the games that we had not ever won at was where we tried to get to where they were standing with spotlights, and we actually won that game that night. And so it took the whole group of us to distract And it probably doesn't make any sense to you, but it was an accomplishment to get that done. And of course, I love the spending time with the kids and the testimonies as well. And we just want to thank the missions committee for supporting us. They supported each person, and we just really appreciated that. That helped a ton. Just a little update about TLC. We are now meeting at the Channel Shed that is outside of town to the east on 54 Highway, about a mile. It's J.R. Doney's shed right now, but it's just a big answer to prayer, because the middle between the two big sheds is a smaller meeting area where we can just get the atmosphere that we're looking for. And is that? Oh, there it is. That's the middle part. JR and Christy got it all fixed up. So that's been a real answer to prayer, just to get Bella get a kitchen and a refrigerator. And so that's where we're meeting on Wednesdays. We do have one prayer request. The kids, a lot of the kids get out of practice at 6:30, and they've got to decide whether they're going to go home and just grab something to eat or come out to TLC. And so we would like to know if there would be anybody that would be interested in doing a supper ministry for Wednesday night, to make it real simple, but just so that we'd have something for them to eat. Maybe like a 7:15, 10 till 7 on Wednesday night. And so we're just going to throw that out there. Talk to Debbie. Debbie'd like to do it, but she'd like to have some help doing it. Just to make a simple supper for everybody. It'd be around 20 people. So if you're interested at all in doing that, see Debbie on that. Is that enough said, or you want to say some more on that? Okay. So thank you guys for sharing. And thank you.
Wow, we packed a lot into about 45 minutes. That's great. Or however long it took, I don't know. Anyway, it just wasn't quite long enough. I could have sat here and listened to more and more. They did a great job, and there's a lot of ministry that went on this summer. And so we can remember the kids that Mike and Jamie worked with at the camp and that Pastor spoke to, and all of those that were involved in that, and continue to pray for the TLC, and also the people that come away from their ministry and rest in Dubai. It's an important ministry there as well. So I'll just ask the blessing. Now we have a lot of food downstairs, so we want you to come down and enjoy our meal with us. Father, we're so thankful that we could be part of the ministries that went on this summer. Lord, we're just really blessed with all that was accomplished for you. And we just pray for those lives that were impacted in some way through the people that went out. We just pray that you will continue to work in their lives and continue to help the ministries that they went to serve. Father, we thank you now for this food that we're about to eat, and we pray that you'll bless it to our bodies in Jesus' name.